Hey everybody, we're only 2 days from the general election. I'm trying to get my last predictions and my last videos finished in time. Let's do our final weekly polling recap. There's a whole ton of information here. I'm going to try to zip through it. We'll start here on Real Clear Politics and look at the 7 battlegrounds. Now, you might use a different aggregate, that's fine. According to Real Clear Politics, across all 7, Trump is ahead by 1.2. He's leading in 5 of the 7. Harris is leading in Wisconsin and Michigan. The widest margin on here is going to be Arizona for Trump at 2.7. So it remains very close. Either side could technically win it, but according to this, it's a slight advantage here for Trump. Now let's take a look at the national popular vote. Well, on this, Trump actually still has a very slight lead at just 0.3%. He's at 48.4, Harris is at 48.1. Almost all of these polls use likely voters and have over 1,000 sample sizes. Trump is ahead in some of these by even up to 3 points, and others, Harris is ahead also by up to 3 points, and plus there's a bunch of ties. The thing to take a look at here is going to be this day in history back in 2020. Also, in the popular vote, Biden was ahead by 7.8. In 2016, Hillary was ahead by 1.5. So according to this, Trump is clearly doing better than he did in those past 2 elections, and significantly so compared to 2020. There's a lot of banking on the Trump side that the polls are going to underestimate him yet again. I've said it a million times, that is possible, but it's also possible that it doesn't happen this time. Now, if we look at the same thing with third parties, then it's dead even at 47.1. It's much more likely that Harris is going to win that popular vote, but I would think for her to feel comfortable, she would want to be ahead by at least 2, probably 3 or more points. But there's also a whole variety of other scenarios. Now, if we glance quickly at these 7 battleground states, in Arizona, Trump is up by 2.7. He leads in every poll except the one from CNN where Harris is up by 1. There's one on here from Data Orbital that has Trump up by 8. That seems like it might be a little bit too much, but you never know. If we look at Georgia, here Trump is up by 2.6. He's leading in every one of these except for the Marist poll where it's tied at 49. It looks good here for Trump, but again, it doesn't mean he's going to win the state for sure. And how about Nevada? Here Trump is again ahead by 1.7. Here Harris is ahead by 1 point in a couple of polls. We've also got another couple of ties. And now we've also got 2 here where Trump is ahead by 6. That would be a pretty big shift from 2020 if Trump won this thing by mid-single digits. Then in North Carolina, Trump is up by 1.7. Here he leads in every poll except from CNN and Survey USA where it's tied. Another close one. You'd rather be Trump here according to these polls, but you never know. How about Wisconsin? Well, it's almost dead even. Harris is only ahead by 0.1%. There's a lot of ties here. Trump ahead narrowly in a few, but the CNN poll here has Harris up by 6. That one seems like it stands out from the rest. I would not expect a 6-point win there. How about in Michigan? Here Harris is up at 0.6. Again, a whole mix of polls. There's some where Trump is up by 1 or 2. Then there's a couple here from Susquehanna and Quinnipiac where Harris is up by 5 and 4 respectively. Those are slightly older than some of these newer polls, and they seem to be a little bit bluer than I would expect, but again, you never know. And how about Pennsylvania? Here it's very close, but Trump is up at 0.4. Tons of polls here. Trump is ahead in some, Harris is ahead in others, a bunch more are tied. There are no obvious outliers here. Every one of these is within 2 points, except the Trafalgar one that has Trump up by 3. And some of these are starting to get to become a little bit outdated by a couple of weeks. So it's a total coin flip. You could take a look at some of the early data. A lot of that has looked fairly favorable for the Republicans, but that does not tell you who they voted for, and we don't know who's going to show up on election day. Now let's glance at some of these state polls and see if there's anything we haven't covered. The first one is going to be the Des Moines Register-Seltzer poll that came out yesterday, and everybody seems to be talking about it. That one is a pretty big bombshell. It has Harris up 3 points, 47 to 44 with third parties. Now that pollster's reputation is actually pretty accurate in that state. The problem is that poll is one of, if not the biggest outlier we've seen this cycle. Pretty much nobody expected the state to be competitive at all. Apparently they don't present their crosstabs, but the Democrats are exuberant over this poll. Republicans immediately dismissing it, saying it's an outlier, it's a suppression poll. I don't think many people really take it seriously, considering Trump won the state by over 8 points last time. That would be a swing that's off the charts, more than 11 points. If it was even close to this, Harris would landslide win the Electoral College. If this happened, I would think Texas would easily be blue as well, but once in a while you see an outlier in a blue state as well. Maybe Trump is super competitive in a state like New Mexico, or it's even close in New Jersey, but it does give one side something to brag about, and of course the other side is going to totally blow it off. So if you want to compare that to another poll, we've got one right below it, and that's from Emerson. That's the head-to-head matchup. Trump is ahead there by 9 points, 54 to 45. That one seems much more believable. So you can go on about it forever. You could always focus on the polls you like and the ones you don't like, but if there's ever going to be a poll to point out that seems like a clear outlier, it's going to be that Des Moines Register one. Now, at the end, if they're right, they're going to look like complete heroes. zeros. Between those two polls, there is a gigantic disparity. Now, the rest of these we're not going to go through individually. We've got a bunch here from Atlas Intel, and they pulled the 7 swing states, and it looks like they've got Trump ahead in every one of them. That 6 points in both Arizona and Nevada might seem like a little bit of a stretch for me, but again, who knows, they could be right. If you go back to Friday, we've got a ton more here from the swing states. Some are good for one side, some are good for the other, but some other states that we're not talking about all the time are going to be Virginia. That's from Roanoke College, and that's with third parties. That has Harris up 10 points. That's the margin Biden won it by last time. So if that panned out, it would be 2020 all over again. Then down here, we've got New Mexico from Survey USA. This one was also more than 10 points last time, but it shows Harris up 6, 50 to 44. So that's another poll. Maybe it's reasonable, maybe it's not. But then we've got Colorado, and we've got Harris up by 12, 53 to 41. Going back to Thursday, it's a lot more swing state action. So we're going to keep going until we get to some other states. Here we've got New Hampshire from UMass Lowell. Harris is up by 7, 50 to 43. And then Rasmussen also took a look at New Mexico. They've got Harris up 5, 49 to 44. Back on Wednesday, in between all the swing states, we've got Minnesota. Rasmussen has Harris up by only 3 points, 50 to 47. With Rasmussen, you're going to expect them to usually have a little bit of a Republican bias, but every now and again, they manage to hit some of these spot on. Then we've got another one in New Hampshire from St. Anselm. Harris is up 5, 51 to 46, and Rasmussen has her only up by 1, 48 to 47. In Texas from Signal, we've got Trump up by 8, 51 to 43. In Nebraska, YouGov has Trump up 15, 55 to 40. In that second congressional district, Harris is up 8, 52 to 44. Then in New Jersey, Harris is up a massive 20 points, 55 to 35. That'd be a clear improvement over the 2020 margin. And then back on Tuesday, it's pretty much all the swing states. So we've got to keep it moving. Let's get on 538 and take a look at some of the Senate races. So Atlas Intel took a look at the key races. And in Michigan, they've got Slotkin only up 1 point, 49 to 47. That was with 1,200 likely voters. In Pennsylvania, they've got Bob Casey up 2 points, 49 to 47. And in Wisconsin, they've got Tammy Baldwin up 1, 49 to 48. So those are pure toss-ups. But based on those numbers, Republicans think they've got a chance in those states. But it gets even more favorable for them in Arizona. Again, from Atlas Intel, they've got Kerry Lake up 2 points over Ruben Gallego, 49 to 47. That's pretty much the only pollster we've seen that shows Lake with a lead there. I think it's an uphill climb for Lake, but Atlas Intel does have a reputation for being highly accurate in some past elections. But right below it, you can see from Mitchell Research and Communications, Gallego is up by 3 points. Next in Florida, we've got Rick Scott up 8 points, 53 to 45. In Ohio, Sherrod Brown is up 2, 48 to 46. In Maryland, we've got Angela Alsobrooks up 9 over Larry Hogan, 48 to 40. In Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar is up 17. In Virginia, also from the same pollster of Chisholm Strategies, they've got Tim Kaine only up 2 points over Hung Kao, 46 to 45. That is by far the worst poll I've seen there for Tim Kaine. I'm not familiar with that pollster. That seems like a clear outlier. If you're waiting for a Wyoming poll to drop, we've got John Barrasso up by only 48 points. How about in Massachusetts? Elizabeth Warren is up 22 over John Deaton, 55 to 33. Then we've got more in Arizona. We've got one that's tied, and then in all the rest, Ruben Gallego is ahead by anywhere from 4 to 9 points. Then in Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin leads every one of these polls between 1 and 7 points. After that, we've got Michigan. Slotkin is ahead anywhere between 1 and 10 points. And in Pennsylvania, this time Bob Casey is either tied or he's ahead by anywhere up to 7 points. So in those Rust Belt states for the Senate, once you even everything out, it's pretty clear that the Democrats do have an advantage there. It's not overwhelming, but you'd rather be them than the Republicans. Next in Nevada, here Jackie Rosen leads every one of these polls except for one. Susquehanna has Sam Brown leading by 1, 47 to 46, but on all the other ones, Rosen is ahead by up to 7 points. So maybe there's movement there toward Brown at the end, but Jackie Rosen there still very much favored. Next in Minnesota, Klobuchar is up by 13. In California, Adam Schiff is ahead by 24 and 21. Then in Virginia, we've got Tim Kaine up by 10 and 11 points. So very different than the one we saw earlier that showed him only up by 2. In Maine, Angus King leads Demi Kazunis by 26 points, 54 to 28. Another one in California has Schiff ahead by 20. In Nebraska, from the Deb Fisher campaign, she's showing herself up by 8 points, 51 to 44. Then right below it, we've got one from the Dan Osborne campaign, and that shows it tied at 47. Then we've got more Wisconsin polling that does tilt toward Baldwin. Then in Pennsylvania, we've actually got David McCormick leading in just one of these polls. He's up by 3 in the one from Echelon Insights, 47 to 44. But in the other ones, it's a clear lead for Bob Casey. And for the most part in these Senate races, it's close, but Democrats Democrats have the edge. The last one we can take note of here is going to be in Texas. We've got one from Signal and from YouGov. In both of them, Ted Cruz leads by 4 points. It's the same margin, 49-45. So let's quickly do the governors. And we'll start here with North Carolina, but there's not much to say. Josh Stein maintains a comfortable lead. In New Hampshire, we've got Kelly Ayotte up by 2 over Joyce Craig, 45-43. And then in the other poll from St. Anselm College, she's up by 3, 49-46. In Washington from ActiveVote, with only 400 likely voters, plus polling dates that span more than 3 weeks, Bob Ferguson is up by a healthy 17, 59-41. In Utah, Spencer Cox is up by 17. Past the North Carolina polls, in Montana, Greg Gianforte is up by a comfortable 19, 50-31. In Missouri, Mike Kehoe leads Crystal Quaid by 15. And in New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte is up by 4. Now let's finish it up here on the U.S. House. There's a bunch here. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm going to point out a few notable ones. We've got Maine's 2nd Congressional District from Survey USA. Jared Golden leads by 12, 53-41. So that district that's likely to vote for Trump at the top of the ticket, looks like there's going to be a ton of crossover vote, and they're going to support Golden in the House. That's at least according to this poll. On the 30th in New Hampshire, the Democrats lead both of these districts comfortably by 8 and 7 points. If you're looking for Nebraska, the 3rd district is extremely red. There's no point in taking a look at that. But in the 2nd, that's the competitive one with Don Bacon. Looks like Tony Vargas is leading him by 4 points, 50-46. In Michigan, Tom Barrett is leading Curtis Hertel by 3 points, 47-45. In Colorado's 8th, Yadira Caraveo leads Gabe Evans by 2, 48-46. We've got a couple New York polls. In the 18th, Pat Ryan leads Allison Esposito by 10, 51-42. But in the 17th, Mike Lawler is ahead by 9 over Mondaire Jones, 49-44. In Connecticut's 5th, Johanna Hayes leads George Logan by 4 points in that rematch, 49-45. In California's 22nd, Rudy Salas leads David Valadeo by 2 points, 49-45. In Pennsylvania's 8th, Matt Cartwright is leading Rob Bresnahan by 7 points, 50-43. And finally, in Montana, the sample size is just not big enough. Plus, they only used adults, not even registered or likely voters. Plus, the polling dates were from a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like there's a ton of undecideds here. So I think that's going to be it. That quickly covers the polling from the final week. There's a whole lot there. You can paint any narrative you'd like. We're going to get the answers soon enough to see who was right and who was wrong. We're going to do a live stream on Election Day. It's a challenge, but I'm going to try to get my final predictions up in time. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these final polls? How does everything look in the swing states? What about that poll in Iowa? And how about anything down ballot in the Senate, Governor, or House? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.